Shabbos. Good Shabbos. Hi, how are you? I like your hair and your outfit. Very sparkly. I'm wearing red, white, and blue. Yeah. Yeah. Thank you.
This was in your box too.
Okay, both of those. Yeah, great.
Okay.
Thank you.
Yep.
September. Uh, No, get a board. There's a board. Just put it on the board. Here. Just move the candles over. Yeah. Roberto's gonna get it. Hi, good Shabbos. Good. All right. Yes. Shabbat Shalom. All you millions out there watching from home. It's July 4th weekend, and I've worn red, white, and blue in honor of the holiday. And we're very glad to worship with you on this Shabbat Pinchas. And we're going to begin with Hine Matov by Rich Recht. And I have to get my song sheet. Here we go. Hine Matov Umanayim Shevet Achim Gam Yachad Hine Matov Umanayim Shevet Achim Gam Yachad Hine Matov Umanayim Shevet Achim Gam Yachad Hine Matovu Manayim Shevet Achim Gam Yachad Hine Matovu Manayim Shevet Achim Gam Yachad Hine Matovu Manayim Shevet Achim Gam Yachad. Our opening song, Hine Matov, is from Psalm 133, verse 1. How good and how pleasant it is when brethren dwell together in harmony. We're now going to continue with the lighting of the Sabbath candles. Deborah, could I ask you to do that? Okay, turn to page 2 and 3. And if David wants to escort you, that'd be great. Okay. There we go. Okay. begin with a prayer of gratitude for all that is holy in my life. God needs no words, no English or Hebrew, no semantics, and no services, but I need them. Through prayer, I can sense my inner strength, my inner purpose, my inner joy, my capacity to love. As I reach upward in prayer, I sense these qualities in my Creator. To love God is to love each other, to work to make our lives better. To love God is to love the world God created and to work to perfect it. To love God is to love dreams of peace and joy that illumine all of us and to bring that vision to life. Continue on page 20 with Lachado D. Have to be a acrobat here. Lechado di lekrat kala b'nei Shabbat nikabela. Lechado di lekrat kala b'nei Shabbat nikabela. Shamor v'zahor b'dibor echad. Ishmianu el hamiyuchad, Adonai echad shemo echad, l'shem uteferet v'litila, lechadodi likrat kala, p'nei Shabbat nikabela, lechadodi likrat kala, p'nei Shabbat nikabela. Verse 2, Lihikrat Shabbat lechuvenecha, ki makor abraha meherosh mikedem nesucha, sof ma'aseh b'machshva techila. Lecha dodi, lecha dodi lekrat kala, P'nei Shabbat nikabela, lehadodi likrat kala. P'nei Shabbat nikabela. Verse 5. Hitorari, kiva ore, kumi uri, uri, shir daberi. Kivoranai like nigla, lecha dodi likrat kala, p'nei Shabbat nikabela, lecha dodi likrat kala, p'nei Shabbat nikabela. Those who'd like to rise to greet the Sabbath bride. Bo'i v'shalom ateret ba'ala, gam b'simcha u'v'tzola, toch emunei am segula, bo'i chala, lecha dodi likrat kala, P'nei Shabbat nikabela, lechadodi likrat kala, P'nei Shabbat nikabela. Turn now to page 26 for the Hatzi Kaddish. I think I need a page turner here. No. It's not like playing the piano, but different, yes, different. Yitgadal v'yitgadal shemei rava, v'yama divrich chirutei, v'yamlik maotei, v'chayechon uvyomechon u'chayei l'chol Beit Yisrael. Ba'agala, ba'agala, uvizman kariv, v'yemeru, Amen. Yehi shemei Rabba mevorach, li'olam li'omaya, yitbarach, yitbarach v'yishtabach, v'yitbar v'yitroman v'yitnaseh, V'yitadar, v'yitaleh, v'yitalal, Shemei l'kudisha, rihu, le'elah min kol birchata, v'shirata, tushbechata, v'nechemata, damihiran v'yama, v'yemeru, Amen. We continue with the call to worship on page 28. Baruch et Adonai, Hamevorah. Baruch Adonai, Amra, Le'olam Va'em. Continue together in the English, the bottom of page 30. Blessed are you, Adonai, our God, ruler of the universe, who speaks the evening into being, skillfully opens the gates, thoughtfully alters the time and changes the seasons, and arranges the stars in their heavenly courses according to plan. You are creator of day and night, rolling light away from darkness and darkness from light, transforming day into night and distinguishing one from the other. Adonai Tsevaot is your name. Ever-living God, may you reign continually over us into eternity. Blessed are you, Adonai, who brings on the evening. Baruch atah Adonai, Hama'ariv Aravim. We continue on page 32 with the singing of the Ahavat Olam. Ahavat Olam, Beit Yisrael, Am ha'ahavta, Torah u'mitzvot, u'kim u'mishpatim, otanu limadeta. Al kein Adonai Eloheinu, v'shakbenu u'vekumenu, nasiach behukecha. V'nismak v'divrei Toratecha, uv'mitzvotecha, le'olam va'ed. Ki hem hayenu, v'yorech yamenu, v'yorech yamenu, uvahem negeh yomam v'layla, yomam v'layla. V'avatecha tosir mimenu le'olamim, Baruch atah Adonai, ohev amo Yisrael. Shema Yisrael, Adonai Eloheinu, Adonai Echad. Baruch Shem Kivod Malhuto Leolam Va'ed. Turn the page to page 36, and please be seated. We join together in the chanting of the Ahavta. V'ahavta et Adonai Elohecha v'chol levavcha v'chol nafshecha v'chol meodecha v'hayu hadivarim ha'ela asher anochi mitzav hayom al levavecha v'shinantam levanecha v'dibarta bam v'shivtecha b'veitecha Uvlechtecha avaderech, Ushachvacha, Uvekumecha, Ukshartam liod, Al yadecha, V'hayu letotafod, Bein einecha, Uktavtam, Amazuzot beitecha, Uvisharecha, Leman tizkeru, Vasitem et kol mitzvotai, Vitem kiddushim lelohechem. Ani Adonai Elohechem. Asher hotzeiti ethem me'eretz Mitzrayim liot lachem leElohim. Ani Adonai Elohechem. Together in the English, you shall love Adonai your God with all your heart, with all your soul, and with all your might. Take to heart these instructions which I charge you this day. Impress them upon your children. Recite them when you stay at home and when you are away, when you lie down and when you get up. Bind them as a sign on your hand, and let them serve as a symbol on your forehead. Inscribe them on the doorposts of your house and on your gates. Thus shall you remember to observe all my commandments and to be holy to your God. I am Adonai, your God, who brought you out of the land of Egypt to be your God. I am Adonai, your God, Adonai Elohechem, Emet. And we continue now with the singing of Mi Chamocha, page 40. Mi Chamocha bo'elim Adonai, Mi Kamocha nedor b'kodesh, Norah tehilot osei fele, Norah tehilot osei fele. Malhutecha ra'uvanecha, Bokei hayam lifnei Moshe u'Miriam, Zeli anu v'yamru, Adonai yimloch, Adonai yimloch, le'olam va'ed. V'nemar kifat Adonai et Yaakov, Ugolo yad hazak mimenu, Baruch ata Adonai, Gal Yisrael. This time on page 42, I want to invite our longtime member and twice president, Will Krasnow, to lead us in the Hashkivenu.
Hashkivenu Adonai, Eloheinu l'shalom, v'had midenu shomrei, nu l'chaim. Hashkivenu Adonai, Eloheinu l'shalom, v'had midenu shomrei, nu l'chaim. Ushmor seitenu, uvaenu, l'chaim u'shalom, me'ata v'ad olam. Hashkivenu Adonai, Eloheinu l'shalom, v'had midenu shomrei, nu l'chaim.
We join together in the English at the bottom of page 42. Grant, O God, that we lie down in peace and raise us up our guardian to life renewed. Spread over us the shelter of your peace. Guide us with your good counsel. For your name's sake, be our help. Shield and shelter us beneath the shadow of your wings. Defend us against enemies, illness, war, famine, and sorrow. Distance us from wrongdoing. For you, O God, watch over us and deliver us. For you, God, are gracious and merciful. Guard our going and our coming to life and to peace evermore. Baruch atah Adonai, haporei sukat shalom aleinu, v'al kol amo Yisrael, v'al Yerushalayim. On page 44, we continue with the Shabbat song, Yismechu. Yismehu v'malahutecha, shomrei, shomrei, shomrei Shabbat, v'korei oneg Shabbat. Yismehu v'malahutecha, shomrei, shomrei, shomrei Shabbat, v'korei oneg Shabbat. Amekadeshei, Mekadeshei Shavi Shabbat, Kulam Yispu, Ve'yitangu mituvecha Shabbat, Yismehu v'malahutecha, Shomrei, Shomrei, Shomrei Shabbat, V'korei oneg Shabbat, Yismehu v'malahutecha, Shomrei, Shomrei, Shomrei Shabbat, V'korei oneg Shabbat. V'hashvi'i ratzita bo v'kidashto Shabbat, Emdat Yamim Oto Karata Shabbat, Yismehu v'malahutecha, Shomrei, Shomrei, Shomrei Shabbat, V'korei oneg Shabbat, Yismehu v'malahutecha, Shomrei, Shomrei, Shomrei Shabbat, V'korei oneg Shabbat. Zecher L'maseh, L'maseh v'reishi Shabbat, Zecher L'maseh, L'maseh v'reishi Shabbat, Yismehu v'malahutecha, Shomrei, Shomrei, Shomrei Shabbat, V'korei oneg Shabbat, Yismehu v'malahutecha, Shomrei, Shomrei, Shomrei Shabbat, V'korei oneg Shabbat. On page 46, we rise for the Amidah. Adonai, sifta tikta, ufi yagiti Adonai, sifta tikta, mouth may declare your praise. Baruch atah Adonai, Eloheinu, v'Elohei Avotenu v'Imoteinu, Elohei Avraham, Elohei Yitzhak, v'Elohei Yaakov, Elohei Sarah, Elohei Rivka, Elohei Rachel, v'Elohei Leah, Ha'el Hagadol, Hagibor v'Hanora, El Elyon, Gomel Hasadim Tovim, V'konei Hakol, V'zocher Chastei Avot V'imahot, U'mevi Gula Livnei V'neihem, Leman Shemo V'ahava, Melech Ozer U'Moshia U'Magen. Baruch atah Adonai, Magen Avraham, V'ezrat Saram, Atah Gibor Le'olam Adonai, Mechayei HaKol, Atah Rav Lehoshia, Morid Hatal, Mechalkel Hayim Bechesed, Mechayei HaKol Berakamim Rabim, Somek Noflim V'rofei Olim, umatir asurim, umekayem emunato lishene afar, michamocha val givurot, umidom elah, melech memi, umechaye, umatzmiach Yeshua. V'ne'eman ata l'hachayot hakol, Baruch ata Adonai, Mechaye hakol. Ata kadosh v'shim hakadosh, V'kedoshim b'yom yalalu chasela, Baruch ata Adonai, Ha'el hakadosh. Please be seated. We're going to continue on page 54 with a special prayer in honor of the Sabbath day. I'll read the first paragraph, and please ask you to join me on the second one. You set aside the seventh day for your name, the pinnacle of creation, and you blessed it above all other days, more sacred than all festival times. So it is written in your Torah, the heaven and the earth were finished in all their array, and on the seventh day God completed the work that had been done, ceasing then on the seventh day from all the work that God had done. Then God blessed the seventh day and made it holy, and ceased from all creative work that God had chosen to do. Together, our God and God of our ancestors, be pleased with our rest, sanctify us with your mitzvot, and grant us a share in your Torah. Satisfy us with your goodness, gladden us with your salvation. Purify our hearts to serve you in truth. In your gracious love, Adonai, our God, grant as our heritage your holy Shabbat, that Israel, who sanctifies your name, may rest on it. Praise to you, Adonai, who sanctifies Shabbat. Baruch atah Adonai, Mekadesh HaShabbat. Page 56, the Avodah, the Ritzeh. Ritzeh, Ritzeh, Ritzeh Adonai Eloheinu, B'amcha Yisrael, Utafi ilatam, B'ahavatika abel, Utehi l'ratzon tamid, Utehi l'ratzon tamid, Avodat Yisro Amecha, Baruch Ata Adonai, She'otecha levadecha, Behirana Avod, She'otecha levadecha, Behirana Avod. Those of you who attend Shabbos morning services get to read a special rendition of the Modim, and it works just as well in the evening. So let's turn to page 139 in our Machzor. And this is, I'm going to call on different people if they will read the English on page 139, and then we'll all join in with a response, Modim Anachnu Lach. So Mark, would you begin for the expanding grandeur? Modim Anachnu Lach. And David? Modim Anachnu Lach. And Anne? Modim Anachnu Lach. And Barb? Modim Anachnu Lach. And the other Barbara, Barbara Seta. Modim anachnu lach. And Paul? Modim anachnu lach. And Josh? Modim anachnu lach. Together, we pray that we may live not by our fears, but by our hopes, not by our words, but by our deeds. Blessed are you, Adonai. Your name is goodness, and you are worthy of thanksgiving. Baruch atah Adonai, hatov shimcha, u'lacha na'eh lehodod. And our worship continues now on page 60. And every time I have an opportunity to fill in for the rabbis, Rabbi Citron and Rabbi Micah and Rabbi Karen, right now they're up in New Hampshire at Camp Yavna. And Jewish camping is a great blessing. It's really wonderful. I'm glad they're there. They're not resting, I assure you. They're working like crazy, but they enjoyed, and Rabbi Citron was a camper there. Rabbi Karen was a camper there as a young girl. So it's a wonderful place, and we sent our son Sam there. In any event, I have the opportunity to go crazy here while they're not here. And I'm going to teach you a Shalom Rav that I particularly like that was brought to us by a soloist, the entertainer, Sue Horowitz. So you need those blue sheets. Everybody get one? Yeah, give one to Will here. All right. So back when Rachel Reed Simpson was our cantor, she brought Sue Horowitz here from Maine for a music Shabbat. And she composed this song, Shalom Rav. It's a Niffer song. The other Shalom Rav was written by Danny Freelander and Jeff Klepper. And we sang that song the first service I ever did here in 1970. So, what? It's 1970. Yeah, 1970. Okay. So this is very easy. I'm going to sing the first two lines, and then see if you can follow me. Shalom Rav, Al Yisrael Amha Tahasim Leolam. Let's try that. Shalom Rav, Al Yisrael Amha Tahasim Leolam. Gentle peace will find its way to us as we gather here to pray. Let's try those two lines. Shalom Rav, Ad Yisrael Amha Tahasim Leolam. Gentle peace will find its way to us as we gather here to pray. The next two lines. Shalom Rav, Al Yisrael Amha Tahasim Leolam. May we carry it inside of us as we go along our way. Let's do that whole refrain. Shalom Rav, Ad Yisrael Amha Tahasim Leolam. Gentle peace will find its way to us as we gather here to pray. Shalom Rav, Ad Yisrael Amha Tahasim Leolam. May we carry it inside of us as we go along our way. So I'm going to do the verses, and you come in with the chorus again. Kiata, can't remember the melody. No. Lecho HaShalom. That's not, it's a different melody. Let's go back to the chorus and we'll wrap it up. Shalom Rav, Al Yisrael Amha Tahasim Leolam. Gentle peace will find its way to us as we gather here to pray. Shalom Rav, Al Yisrael Amha Tahasim Leolam. May we carry it inside of us as we go along our way. We're going to pause now for silent prayer. When I was in high school, I went to a Quaker school, and every Tuesday we had an hour of silence. And I kind of liked it. So I sometimes find it services that the period of silent prayer is like 10 seconds, and it's too fast. So we're gonna spend at least about 3 minutes talking to God. So tefillah b'lachash, let us pray silently. Now I'm going to continue with the Mishaberach list, and I want to mention something else. I'm sure many of you have seen in the news or read in the paper about the rabbi in Brighton who was attacked, stabbed 8 times, but seemed to survive and is at the hospital. So in concern about the safety of our Jewish people and the Rabbi Shlomo Noginsky, we will include his name in our Mishaberach list. I also want to mention my good friend and Chevra partner, Rabbi Bob Orkand, who is currently in the hospital. I'm going to continue with our Shabbat list. Colin Moreau, Mary Lou Houle, Janet Watson, Paul Robillard, Elizabeth Hill, Celso Silva, Professor Enrique Mascaro, Deborah Booker, Ori Bathila, Yigal Ben Sara, Dick Feibelman, Amy Seich, Robert Bloom, Annalise Stone, Bernard Tarr, Benjamin Horowitz, Bradley Dichter, Matteo Goldman, and Judy Cook, Fruma Batarov, Jacob Visonia, Dan Ruggiero, Toby Weiner, Svetlana Rabinovich, Dalia Harel, Esya Rukhavskaya, Amy Fassberg-Kurtz, Eileen Arnone, Charles Atkins, Marilyn Breyer, Jean Sands, and Roseanne Cohen. And are there any other names that you would like to add to our Mishra Bayrak list? Thank you. Thank you. Okay. Thank you. And Will? Thank you. Barb, do you have any? Okay. On page 253, we joined in the singing of the Mishra Bayrak. Mishra Bayrak Avotenu Mekor HaBracha Limotenu. May the source of strength, who bless the ones before us, help us find the courage to make our lives a blessing, and let us say, Amen. Misha Be'erach Imotenu Mekor Abraha Lavotenu. Bless those in need of healing with refuah shlema, the renewal of body, the renewal of spirit, and let us say, Amen. I'm going to do a bit of a book review right now. Will, could you check and see if there's a little, like a music stand in the closet there, so I can put the book down? It used to be there about 20 years ago. I don't know if it's there anymore. Oh, closer than that, okay. No deal. That's okay, all right. We'll do the best we can. What? David. Maybe in the back, who knows? All right. How many of you know this book, As a Driven Leaf? Who's by Milton Steinberg? Okay, Barbara knows it. Yes. So I reread it. I don't know what moved me to read it. I wanted to be, oh, here we go, great. Thank you, Josh. Terrific.
It was.
Okay. So Milton Steinberg was a rabbi at a very prestigious congregation, the Park Avenue Synagogue in New York City. And he was a prolific author. He wrote 4 books that I'm aware of, and that I haven't read all of them, but I've read 3 of them. One was this book, As a Driven Leaf, and I'm going to talk about that tonight. It's about a biography of the making of the modern Jew. The other was The Prophet's Wife and Basic Judaism. Basic Judaism used to be the standard book that was given to people who were considering conversion. It was really kind of very clearly stated about the beliefs and the pillars of Judaism. So he was a conservative rabbi. He was ordained at the Jewish Theological Seminary, but he was also a Reconstructionist. That is, he was influenced by Rabbi Mordecai Kaplan, so he believed in the peoplehood as kind of the ultimate entity in Judaism. But he died at the age 46. It's kind of, I don't know the cause of his death. I've looked up and I haven't been able to find it. So he was taken away from us. He left a big legacy. And one of his books, which I've read twice, I don't usually reread books, but this book is worth reading twice. It's called As a Driven Leaf. And as I said, it's about a rabbi named Elisha ben Abuya. And I'm going to tell you a little bit about him. The first century and the second century CE, that is from 0 to 200, were very, very creative, formative, violent times for the Jewish people in the land of Israel. The temple was, of course, destroyed in what year? 70 CE, yeah. And the rabbis we're going to talk about lived between 100 and 120, 130 years after the beginning of the calendar. And it was a violent time because there was no temple. People said the temple's been standing for 500 years. How could God let this happen? What are we going to do? And all sorts of creative things came out of that. Some people said, let's go off to the desert and rebuild a model community like the people who wrote the Dead Sea Scrolls or the Essenes. They went there. Other people started Christianity. That was the time of the origins of Christianity. And it was the time of the beginnings of Rabbinic Judaism and divisions between the two great sects in that group, the Sadducees and the Pharisees. So there was a lot going on, which is I find kind of surprising, in a period of semi-oppression. I mean, the Romans were very hard on taxation and peace and order and whatever, and they ruled with a hard fist. But there was general peace in the land, but a lot was going on, and people certainly didn't like the Roman rule very much. So it was a time also of great Roman culture. Any of you been to Caesarea in Israel? Caesarea is a place on the shore of Israel which the Romans made into an amazing port. If you read National Geographic, which I still subscribe to, they built an underground foundation and a port there. They built a theater. They had not a coliseum, but something for horse racing going around. Anybody know their Latin or Roman? Yeah, it's a hippodrome. Good. Yeah, that's having to do with horses. Yeah, and it was so. The Romans were very much to be admired in terms of what they produced, and also the literature and the thoughts. They honored Greek philosophy, as did, and Roman as well. So it was kind of an attractive time, and there were people who kind of were leaning both ways. And that was the case with Elisha ben Abuya. So he was born in the northern part of Israel. His mother died when he was very young, and his father was what we call an assimilated Jew. That he had, instead of getting a rabbi or sending him to Hebrew school, he got a Greek tutor for him, and he learned all the Greek values and thoughts, and he was involved in Greek and Roman culture as a boy, even though he knew he was Jewish. And then his father died kind of unexpectedly, and he came under the influence of his uncle, Uncle Amram. And Uncle Amram was a very traditional Jew, and he said, oh my God, my nephew is going to go to hell. I can't do this. So he took him and began to teach him Judaism, Yiddishkeit, and he sent him to a famous rabbi, Rabbi Joshua. Anybody know why Joshua was so famous? He was terribly ugly. Ugly. He was everybody remarked his looks were like enough to scare you, scare you off. He was very ugly, but he was a wonderful teacher. He was also a blacksmith at the same time. In those days, rabbis had to have another profession. Couldn't be a rabbi as a profession. It was an honorific title, and you did lots of things rabbinically, but you had to earn your money. So he went to live with Rabbi Joshua, and Rabbi Joshua tutored him and brought him up in Judaism. He was a very bright young man, and eventually he decided to follow in his tutor's footsteps, and he became, was ordained as a rabbi, and eventually joined the Sanhedrin, that group of 70 elders. So he did quite well and was acknowledged as a very learned individual. But throughout his life, or later on in his life, his background began to catch up with him, and he had questions of doubt about his religion. He ran into he went to want to do some Greek reading, and he read Euclid's geometry, and he said, "This is so precise. This is so logical, so wonderful. Everything leads from one thing to another. It's just so it very appealed to him." He says, "I wonder if I could develop that kind of system for Judaism." So that was his goal. Can I make Judaism as rational as Euclid's geometry? So he struggled with that. Then he had a couple of other incidents that shook his Jewish soul. He was watching one day while a boy was up in a tree, and there's a law in the Jewish tradition that if you encounter a bird's nest with a mother bird and eggs, or with a mother bird and chicks, you must drive away the mother, but you can keep the eggs, but don't kill the mother. The idea behind this was that the source of the reproduction was not harmed, just the fruit, so to speak. So you could keep the eggs or keep the chicks. So he witnessed the father telling his son, go up in here and get those eggs in that nest. So the boy climbed the tree and shooed away the mother bird, took the eggs, and he fell down and died, fell out of the tree and died. And it's so upset. He said, here's following his father's request and following Jewish tradition. Is this the result? And then another terrible thing happened to him. He had a disciple, Elisha ben Abuya had a disciple by the name of Meir. And Meir had a beautiful, wonderful wife named Beruria. Beruria is famous because she had great Jewish knowledge, and she's quoted in the Talmud quite a few times as a teacher. So Meir and Beruria were a wonderful couple. They had 2 sons, and Elisha ben Abuya became very friendly with them and went to their house often. And then one day, it's a long story, it's worth it, I could tell it again, but Beruria said to her husband Meir, he says, I have a question, Meir. A man came and left 2 precious jewels with me, and now he's come to call them back. What should I do? He says, well, you should give them back to him. And then she led him to the bedroom, and her 2 sons had died of a plague, pandemic, so to speak, and so they lost their 2 sons. So this really shook Elisha ben Abuya. So he kept looking for some sort of logical way to comprehend things like this. So he had 3 famous colleagues, and they made up a foursome. It wasn't for bridge, it was for study. And we're going to read about them. Take a look at your blue sheets. And Cynthia, would you read about the 4 rabbis, Babylonian Talmud, Hagiga? Yeah. Yeah. Cynthia, I think I better take over because I don't know if people on the screen are hearing that. So I'm going to read it. I'm going to read it because I don't think people at home, all 2 of them, can hear what you're saying. So they don't have this script either. So I apologize. But the rabbis taught 4 entered the Pardes. Pardes is an amazing word. Pardes is unusual in that it has, usually most Hebrew words have how many root letters, Mark Beal? 3. This one has 4. And it has 4 because it's not originally a Hebrew word, it's a Persian word. And pardes means an orchard or garden, but it also has developed into the word paradise. And we also know this word this is the kind of the acronym for the way you study Torah. Each of the 4 letters stands for a different way of interpreting Torah. The Pei, does anybody know this? The Pei stands for Peshat, which means the basic meaning. The Resh stands for Remez, that is the hidden meaning. The Dalet stands for Drash, that is the homiletical meaning. And the Samach stands for Sod, the mystical meaning. So that was a kind of a key paradigm that the rabbis used. But in this case, in this sentence, it refers to kind of the field of mysticism. Jewish mysticism didn't start with the Kabbalah in the Middle Ages. It goes all the way back to these rabbis. And so there was Jewish mysticism then. And I'm going to continue. So the rabbis taught 4 entered the Pardes, which means 4 of these gentlemen together went on a quest into mystical Judaism. They were Ben Azai, Ben Zoma, Acher, and Rabbi Akiva. And Rabbi Akiva said to them, "When you come to the place of pure marble stones, do not say, 'Water, water,' for it is said, 'He who speaks untruth shall not stand before my eyes.'" What the heck is this about? Crazy. Okay. They believed that there were ways to ascend to God. One could either do the Maaseh Merkavah, kind of redoing Genesis 1 and going back to God as the source of creation, or one could either go to the book of Ezekiel and go back through the chariot of Ezekiel, go back to be united with God. And there were steps along the way. One of these steps, apparently, you would see something flashing, and it was not water. It was marble. So he wanted you to say, don't make the mistake of assuming that this is water. It's not that. So a person had to kind of go up each step to make that unification. Okay. So then Ben Azai gazed and died. He had a mystical experience that was so horrendous that he couldn't withstand it. Regarding him, the verse says, "Precious in the eyes of God is the death of his pious ones." Ben Zoma gazed and went mad, so one guy went crazy. So, to go to study Jewish mysticism, there are several qualifications. Does anybody know them? How old do you have to be? Yes, theoretically you have to be 40. And what else? You have to be married. So you have to have a kind of a stable, experienced life to go into mysticism, because they knew it was dangerous. It could lead to madness. So regarding him, the verse states, "Did you find honey? Eat only as much as you need, lest you be overfilled and vomited." And this is the 4th one, Acher. Acher means the other. And it's a name that the rabbis picked for Elisha ben Abuya. He was known as Acher, the other one, because he was a heretic. He dropped out. Okay? Acher cut down shoots. I'm not exactly sure what this means, but it means he destroyed the basics of Judaism. He cut down shoots. And Rabbi Akiva, he entered in peace and left in peace. So Rabbi Akiva had the inner strength to enter into the garden of mysticism, to study and to see what was there, and then to come out alive and well. So they talk about Acher. So how did this happen? I told you that Rabbi Elisha ben Abuya became concerned, and finally he reached a point where he couldn't fulfill the role as a rabbi anymore. He had lost his belief. He couldn't reconcile reason and Judaism, so he left. He divorced his wife, and he went up to Antioch, up in the area of Turkey, and there he became a seeker, a philosopher and student of philosophy, seeking to find a way to find the source, the truth of religion. And he became so alienated from his people that even during the Bar Kokhba revolution, he was an informer for the Romans, that he told them things about the Jewish community that helped the Romans win the war. So he really, it's no wonder that they called him Acher, the other one. So ultimately he comes to the end of the book, and he realizes that he's nowhere. He's lost his Judaism, and he hasn't found what he's looking for in Greek philosophy. He can't find the ultimate truth and build a system for himself on it. And so it ends in a very sad way. And I think what Rabbi Milton Steinberg was trying to say, that all of us kind of have a struggle internally with our ration, our reason, our minds, and our hearts, between faith and reason. And what he was trying to say, I think, is that you need both. You can't have a religion based totally on reason and logic, and it's tough to have a religion based just totally on faith, because reason challenges it sometimes. For me, there are some basic foundations of faith, and that is, I believe that God created the world. I believe that God has revealed to us, somewhat through Torah, somewhat through ourselves, what is good and right. And I believe God cares about the world. I can't prove any of these. These are all acts of faith on my part. But when looking at the rest of Judaism and looking at the Torah, I use reason to say, did this happen? Did this not happen? But I'm still held firm by my pillars of faith. And Elisha ben Abuya, Acher, the other one, couldn't come to that kind of position, and he died in Antioch, away from his people, and not resolved in his faith. So, this is an interesting book. Yes? Well, I didn't either. So, yeah. I mean, one of the great things about this, in addition to talking about this question of reason and faith, is that it tells you learn what rabbis did back in the 1st century and 2nd century. You see how rabbis function, not the way they do today. Yes, Barb? Yes. Yes, it has a sad ending, and he was caught between two cultures, and he couldn't resolve it. Yeah, Harvey. I don't know. Could be. I don't know. That could be. Yes, some of them may have been too young for that kind of dangerous journey. I see. Thank you. I didn't know that. Anybody else have? Yes, David. Rabbi Akiva was crucified by the Romans, and he was raked. His flesh was raked, and he had a very bad death. No, that's a different rabbi. Yes, it was Turadia ben. A different rabbi who was died with wrapped in a Torah, and they put woolen things around him and covered it with water so that he would die slowly. He was burned at the stake, so he would die slowly. And then some of his disciples came and lifted that out and helped him to die quickly. This is all happening during the period of 130, when the Bar Kokhba revolution. I think the emperor was Hadrian, and the Romans didn't fool around. You mess with them, they're going to do you in, and they did. And so the rabbis were forbidden to teach Torah. They couldn't teach Torah, but they didn't stop. So they kept teaching Torah, and then they were arrested and executed. So it was a very difficult time. And you can see, even in this book, he puts the words in the mouth of Rabbi Elisha ben Abuya that he doesn't think Judaism is going to survive. The Romans are too powerful. We're going to disappear, and I'm not casting my vote with Jewish survival or Jewish continuity. But he was wrong. We did survive. But it was very, very challenging, yeah. Barb. Because there's I think, a passage from Job which uses that word. And who's the driven leaf? It's Abuya. The wind goes this way, the wind goes that way. He's driven along by the currents of his culture. Yeah. All right, so I recommend that. And here's a nice, you can even see his picture of him, but very tragic that he died at 46. Goodness. Let's conclude our service. And we'll rise for the Aleinu, page 282. As Jane Fabelman likes to say on Shabbat morning. Aleinu l'shabbat l'adon hakol l'teit gedula yotzer reishi shelo asanu kugei haratzot v'lo samanu k'mishpachot ha'adama shelo sam helkeinu kahem v'gor aleinu k'hol hamonam v'anachnu korim umishtachavim umodim lifnei melech malhei hamlachim hakadosh baruch hu v'ne'ema v'haya Adonai l'melech al kol haaretz Vayom ahu yeh Adonai echad u'shemo echad. Please be seated. Is there a board rep who's supposed to make announcements? Usually there is, but if there isn't, I'll make an announcement. Next Shabbat, Cantor Treitman will be joining me, and so that'll be terrific. So I'm looking forward to that. And we may do a little presentation about something musical instead of a sermon or discussion. So we're looking forward to having her come back. Shabbat services tomorrow are at 9 o'clock in the library. Yeah, okay. So we're starting to get back into the swing of things. Anybody else think of any things going on? Yes. There's good news that the Shalom Corner, our preschool, has been licensed by the state of Massachusetts. It was not easy, but what they've done with the rooms back there is absolutely amazing. It's beautiful, and this is a start of a new chapter in Temple Beth David, and it's very exciting. So wonderful, yes. Jewish and non-Jewish children. Yeah, it's open to the entire community. Yeah. So that's very exciting. All right, we'll get ready for the Kaddish. Let's rise. My thanks to Don Naceda, our technical advisor and AV operator right now, and Deborah, right? What? Okay, thank you for ushering. And let's continue on page 293. Our thoughts turn to those who have departed this earth, our own loved ones, those whom our friends and neighbors have lost, the martyrs of our people whose graves are unmarked, and those of every race and nation whose lives have been a blessing to humanity. As we remember them, we meditate on the meaning of love and loss, of life and death. And we call these names within the 30-day Shaloshim period. We mourn the passing of Jerome Jerry Bernard Sigelman, the father of Deborah Ellis, father-in-law of Stephen Ellis and grandfather of Julia and Benjamin, and Mitchell Selig, the uncle of Abby Hornstein. These are the names of those who've Yahrzeit occurred during this week. Samuel Adelson, Isaac Beck, William I. Birchie, Jimmy Hirschberg, Stella Hoch, Phyllis LeBlanc, Murray Litton, Jay Neinstein, Reba Oppenheim, June Ringel, Mary Siegel, William Siegel, Tim Spillane, Goldie Stryer, and Nellie Weiner. Are there any other Kaddish names or Yahrzeit names? Yes, Paul? Thank you. Now on page 294, we continue with the Kaddish prayer. Yit Gadal, V'Kadash, Shemei Rabbah, V'Yama Divra, Hirute, V'Yamlik Malchute, V'Haye Chon, V'Yomeh Chon, V'Haye Dechol Beit Yisrael, V'Agalav Uzman Kariv, V'Imru, Amen. Yehei Shemei Rabbah Mevarach, L'Olam Omei Omaya, Yit Barak, V'Yishtabak, V'Yit Bo'ar, V'Yit Raman, V'Yit Naseh, V'Yit Hadar, V'Yit Aleh, V'Yit Halal, Shemei Dekudusha, Richu, Le'elam Min Kol Birchata V'Shirata, Shishbachata V'Nechemata, Damiram V'Yoma, V'Imru, Amen. Yehei Shalama Rabba Min Shemaya, V'Chaim Aleinu V'Al Kol Yisrael, V'Imru, Amen. Osei Shalom B'Mromav, Hu Ya'aseh Shalom Aleinu, V'Al Kol Yisrael, V'Imru, Amen. May God send peace to all who mourn and comfort all the bereaved among us, and let us say, Amen. We'll conclude with Osei Shalom. Osei Shalom B'Mromav, Hu Ya'aseh Shalom Aleinu, V'Al Kol Yisrael, V'Imru, Amen. Ya'aseh Shalom, Ya'aseh Shalom, Shalom Aleinu, V'Al Kol Yisrael, Ya'aseh Shalom, Ya'aseh Shalom, Shalom Aleinu, V'Al Kol Yisrael. Shabbat Shalom to those here at Beth David. Shabbat Shalom to those of you at home. And we're going to conclude with the Kiddush and the Motzi. Will, would you do us the honor by reciting the Kiddush? Yeah. Amen. Baruch atah Adonai, Eloheinu melech haolam, Shabbat Shalom. Okay. If anybody wants to come see the preschool